But I'm taking some of my MAC Studio Fix, putting a little bit on my wrist. And I do like to mix my MAC Studio Fix with the Peach Perfect. It is a matte foundation, and if you have dry skin, this is probably not for you. But if you have an oily T-zone or oily skin or combination skin, then this might be good for you. Now I'm going to take my little beauty blender and I'm just going to kind of mix it in. Okay. Now, this is the important part. Now keep in mind, my beauty blender, before I start my makeup process, I always dampen my beauty blender. And what that means, you put it under water, squeeze it really good. And then for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds at the most, and then get a towel and squeeze out the excess. And that's a damp beauty blender. Okay, so now I wiped up I mixed it in with this and I wiped it up. So there's a good bit of foundation on my beauty blender, which is fine because I'm going to put it all over my face. And it will pick up the excess because it's a damp sponge, and that's what sponges do. So let's go. Pouncing, I'm just like doing that with it, if that makes any sense. Just bouncing it off of my face. And right now I'm just like concentrating on getting the foundation on the different areas of my face, and then I'll go back. See how veiny my eyelids are? I'll go back and push it in my skin more. I am not wiping, not one time. Literally bouncing it off my face. Now the only areas where I find myself to wipe is right here. Just to blend it down my neck. But this is not a problem area for me. But I still go back over and pounce. I know that pressing it into your skin takes longer than wiping, but I promise it's so worth it. And once you get used to doing it, because it does take a little bit of time to get used to doing it, you won't be able to go back. Alright, so I'm having to really press it into the crease of my nose right here. Not excess, I'm just getting it down in there. Alright, so now if you go over an area on your face where you feel like all it's doing is like sloshing around foundation, twist your beauty blender. And then it's fresh and it'll pick up the excess. So, the longer you can pounce, the better. Obviously, we have a life and have to go into work, so we can't spend as much time on it as we would like. I'm not really concentrating right underneath here because the less makeup on fine lines and wrinkles, the better. So I have a little bit of fine lines here and I have small lines here. So I'm definitely going to take a damp side without any foundation on it and go back over my fine lines to make sure I don't have makeup caked up in there. That sounded really country. You know what I mean. Okay. Because I want makeup on them. I don't want a lot of makeup. I want very little because all it does is highlight it. Alright, so I can still see my pores, but this is not the process that you cover pores. I'll show you that later. This is just putting foundation on your face. And as little amount of foundation as you possibly can. Good foundation. I mean, you can't just take anything and think it's going to work. Got to make sure it's right for your skin. Like if you're oily and you're wearing a foundation that is luminous, if that's in the title, that's probably going to give you a dewy complexion, which means it's probably for someone with dry skin. There you go. Sometimes I use some like that, but it mainly is during the winter time. Okie dokie. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the concealer. I only put concealer where I want to brighten. Now, if you're using concealer to hide a blemish, you do that before foundation. And it matches your foundation color. If you are using a concealer to brighten, then you use one shade lighter at least. You don't want to go too extreme, so I like one shade. And you put it on areas that you want to brighten, which for me, that is underneath my eye, and I kind of like carry it out through my temples. I do not bring it down on top of my larger pores. That is a no. And when you do it at first, you're like, oh, this looks good. After lunch, you hate your life, I promise. I want to brighten this area right here just a little bit, and a little on my jawline, and I do put a little bit like on my chin and around this mouth area. I do not cake it on here. If any gets on my smile lines, I thin it out as much as possible. So there you go. So I use, and I really like it. It does not dry my skin. It's not thick enough to where I can't blend it out extremely well. I find some concealers are too thick. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't. And this stays on. Like, this don't go anywhere. This is MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, and this is in NW15, which is Neutral Warm 15. One shade lighter than my foundation. My foundation is Neutral Warm 20. There you go. All right, so I'm going to put some on my hand. I still don't know how much concealer I use. Can you see? All right. Go in, same beauty blender. I have not done anything to this beauty blender. I have not re-wet it or anything. You don't have to do that. Same one. Okay, and I'm going to go in and start underneath my eyes. Now, if you have extreme like wrinkles and they're really deep right in this area, you are going to want a super thin layer, and you definitely need to thin it out as much as you possibly can. All right, I'm going to bring it on my forehead, and I'll bring it down just a smidge on my nose, not too much. I don't really get oily on top of my nose. It's mainly on the sides of my nose and on my forehead and some on my chin. So I'm thinning out very little layer, like very thin layer. I'm going to save my chin for last because I want the least amount on that area because I have smile lines. The initial point of impact, like when you put foundation on your sponge and you go to like put it on your face, the initial point of impact is where the most concealer is going to go. So if you have wrinkles under your eye, don't start underneath your eye. Start a place where you don't have as many wrinkles. And I'm really pouncing it out really well through here. Okay, now here is my chin. I probably normally do a little more than this, but it's not that big of a deal. So I'm not going to put more concealer out. I'm not going to dispense more, I guess is what I should say. I'm really concentrating on pouncing it through here because I do not want a whole lot caked up on here. I'm going to rotate my sponge because I see some like built up right here. Rotate my sponge a little more. Thin layers. Okay, so now I'm done with that, and now I'm not doing contour today just because I really want to focus. I don't even do that every day, and I really want to focus in on foundation to keep from getting oily. Okay, so I'm skipping some things that I might do if I had time, which is cream contour, which you don't have to do. I don't do it a lot. I do it just some days if I have extra time. All right, so I got my translucent setting powder, Laura Mercier. I love it. There's other ones. I love Kat Von D Lock-It setting powder. This is just one I know 100% has zero flashback, and I have to do videos all day long, so there you go. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just send me a DM, and if I can't find the answer, I'm sure I know someone who can. Thanks, girls.